What's going on, y'all? Jared Sandler here with you. The Rangers and the Diamondbacks playing the second game of this three-game series tonight. Big news in Rangers land. Jack Leiter has officially signed right around $8 million. He is going to be our pregame guest. So if you're able to listen on the Texas Rangers radio network, locally in the Metroplex on 105.3 The Fan at around 6:50 or so, you can hear my conversation with Jack here on Wednesday if you're able to watch this in time. Just generally speaking, my thoughts, my takeaways, really impressive kid, clearly knows pitching. He has a lot of the characteristics you'd expect from someone who not only is the son of a near 20-year big leaguer, but the nephew and cousin of big leaguers as well. Growing up in the Leiter family, obviously a lot of pitching getting discussed at dinner, lunch, family gatherings. And he just seems to have a really sharp understanding. And I think also being around a big league clubhouse, big league players, the moment today, like, not that there's anything wrong with it, but sometimes guys sign and they're starting their professional journeys, and it's just like they're very happy to be there. And that's the prevailing kind of disposition. I think Jack was very happy to be there, but I think there was also a sense of, I'm ready to, like, let's get this thing going. Like, I'm ready to start progressing and achieving and whatnot. So that was really impressive. He's likely not going to pitch this year just based on workload and the high stress innings he did pitch, but it's going to be exciting following Jack, as he, really begins his professional journey. What I really wanted to talk about today, and, by the time you watch this, maybe, a move has been made, an extension's been signed, a trade has been executed, but I wanted to talk about Joey Gallo and the different options the Rangers have. So option one is just nothing. They don't do anything. Don't get traded. There's no extension. Doesn't mean that they still couldn't sign an extension beyond the trading deadline. Doesn't mean he couldn't get traded this offseason, but that, on July 31st, nothing has really changed. Obviously, another option is signing an extension, and another option is trading him. The reason I wanted to do this is I'm seeing a lot of people saying definitively the Rangers would be silly not to trade him, or the Rangers would be silly not to extend him. It's like very polar opposite, but equally, firm views on two of those options. The reality is this: it's almost impossible. It is impossible to truly know without knowing what's on the other end of that rainbow. If you're dead set on extending him, well, you're obviously not going to extend him just for any amount of money, right? So it's important to know, what is he willing to say yes to? If Joey Gallo is willing to say yes to, say, 4 years and $22 million a year, all right, then maybe my opinion would be different if, the lowest he would be willing to accept is 6 years at $28 million a year. So it's tough to sit here and say the Rangers absolutely have to extend him, because the numbers just might not make sense. We don't know what he wants. We don't know what those conversations are like. Same thing on the trade side of things. It's really tough to say, well, the Rangers absolutely have to trade him. It would be a missed opportunity if they don't. Well, what if you're just not getting a lot of value for him? And we can sit here and forecast and predict what a guy could bring back into trade. But the reality is we have no idea, because these things are not apples to apples. And there's no consistency year to year in what a guy's value is. So if the team A is willing to trade, stud prospect 1, stud prospect 2, and stud prospect 4, all three of whom are top 100 prospects, and the Rangers were to say no, then, maybe that would elicit a different response than if the best offer you could get was some guy who was maybe a team's 4th and 6th best prospects, but they weren't even top 100 guys. At that point, I would just hold on and see if maybe you could gain ground on an extension, whatnot. So you have to know what's happening on the other side of those phone calls to truly know. Without knowing, it's tough to say, yeah, they would be stupid to do this, or they would be silly to not do that. Now, obviously, if we, find out later on that the Rangers refuse to do 4 years and $20 million a year with Joey, and you feel like that's, value you would have pursued, all right, now you have more of the information and you can truly have a firm stance. But what I really want to do is kind of go through why it would make sense to and not to do the extension and the trade. So let's start with the trade. Why would it make sense to trade Joey Gallo? Well, he's a free agent after not this year, but next year. And perhaps you feel like the best player he's ever going to be is right now. There's a lot of unknown here. There's a lot of unknown in the assessment. It's like the stock market, buy, hold, sell, whatever. We don't know. You can forecast, you put in a lot of work to try and make the right decisions, but you don't know for sure. Maybe they feel like his value is at an all-time high. And they can get the type of return that would justify moving him. Maybe, the Rangers don't feel like they're able to extend him, that it's just not going to work out, that the two sides, despite mutual interest, aren't going to get close enough to where, an extension seems possible. Why would you not trade him? Well, one, because maybe you feel like an extension is going to happen, or an extension does happen. But, also, maybe because you feel like there is importance in having him around as you go into this offseason. If you want to be aggressive in free agency, maybe it helps to have Joey Gallo there so that free agent target can look and say, hey, I understand that this, I'm joining a rebuild, but at least we've got a piece of the puzzle, towards where we want to be. So, that's, I think I think that's something that needs to be considered. And also, does it, do you in not trading him, depending on the return, the possible return, do you, almost set yourself back in the rebuild because now you're waiting on a guy who's, in A-ball who you're not sure about. What if that guy who's an A-ball is a super stud prospect? That all these different variables. Why would you extend Joey? Well, you would extend Joey because you can get a number that makes sense to you, whether it's the annual value or the years. To me, the years might be the biggest sticking point, because I don't care so much about the money if it's fewer years, because that's less time until you have the ability to get that contract off the books if it isn't providing the ROI that you want. So you would extend him if the number's right. Obviously, you would extend him because you don't feel like the number that you're spending affects your ability to get big time free agents. If you don't think Joey is your A number one guy, you can't pay him A number one guy money. And if you don't, you still get those A number one guys, the guys you can build a lineup around as your primary alpha dog. All right, then what's the harm? And again, maybe, you don't want to just carelessly spend $22 million a year. But if you do believe in the player, the additional value on top of that is, hey, you're showing guys we're taking steps in the right direction. We believe in what we have going on here. We don't think we're so far away. And we want to show people that we're willing to spend money. We want other people around the league to know that we're serious here, so that when we entertain the possibility of signing that person as a free agent, they understand where we are. Why would you not want to extend him? Well, and the other reason why I think it's important, the Rangers have a lot of one-way players, right? Guys who are good at this, but not, they're not good in the field, but they can hit, or they can't hit, but they're really good in the field. Joey's a two-way player, three-way player, really, if you include base running. It's important to build your roster with guys like that. Why would you not want to extend him? Well, obviously, maybe, the primary reason is the cost is too high, or the demand in years is too long, more than you're comfortable with. Maybe the Rangers in their own internal assessment feel like, this is the best he's going to be. One thing that I think is worth accounting for that's tough to forecast is the physical side. There really isn't a track record of big bodied guys who have, generate lots of torque in their swings, staying healthy. Maybe that's a concern, or maybe that's just something you have to deal with. Ask the Yankees. The Yankees are dealing with this right now with Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. I'm sure with Judge, they're willing to take the bumps as they come. With Stanton, maybe not. And one reason why Stanton's a non-factor defensively, Judge is a factor defensively, and Joey obviously is a huge factor defensively. So, these are some of the things you have to consider. They're not all, there's some of the things you have to consider, but I just want to caution people. You definitely need and should have an opinion. I'm not saying don't have an opinion, but just understand that if you're going to take the hard stance, the Rangers would be stupid to fill in the blank. You need to, you're essentially making an opinion without having all the information. So yeah, I would be, very quick to tell you that if the Rangers had an offer on the table with, 2 top 50 prospects for Joey Gallo and said no, I'd kind of scratch my head and wonder why. Just as I would wonder why the Rangers didn't act on an extension if 4 years on top of his controllable year next year, so 5 years from now, at $22 million a year was thrown out there, agreed upon, but the Rangers didn't want that. I think that's a pretty good value for that guy. But the same token, again, if you're not getting great value in a trade, or the money that's being discussed, the years that are being discussed in an extension don't make sense, well then, it's not like you're writing a blank check, right? And it's not like you're just saying, hey, best offer on the table, we're trading him. So I just think it's important to understand and remember those things when considering these discussions. All right, we'll talk to you later. Thanks so much for watching.